Hello everyone and welcome to another Blue Tengu Lab. Following up on the Alexa stuff, before I get started on the live show this weekend, I did want to get everything set up because you know how things are with accounts and figuring things out and jumping on forums and whatnot, so I figured that wouldn't be very good for the live show. So I did do a lot of Alexa testing beforehand to make sure that I have all the tools in place that I needed. Good thing I did because it took quite a while to get everything working. A lot of trial and error and stuff. Let me jump to the desktop really quick and show you where I'm at. Basically, the last episode I used, let's see, on these other tutorials. Let's see if I can find it. There's so many Amazon links right now, I don't know what's where. Let's see. It's one of these. That one. Yeah, the new Alexa skills template step-by-step guide to build a decision tree skill. There was one or two drawbacks, like one or two things I had to kind of fiddle with to get this one working, but this one wasn't too bad. I got this working in the last episode you might have seen before this one, but that's not enough to do like an interactive fiction adventure. So I went over to this one from Robert Jameson, announcing a new tool for building interactive adventure games on Alexa. Basically this, when you're all said and done, this is what you get. Unfortunately, this tutorial is designed with Mac OS X in mind, which means you have to do a little bit of fiddling around in Windows to get it to work. In case you are interested in doing this in Windows, I do want to show you the steps, if I can remember them all. There's quite a bit to get things working. I even went as far as to modify this to get actual like MP3 files working. So if you did want to do something like the Wayne investigation skill that's out there, you have to use your own MP3 files instead of just relying on Alexa's voice. That takes a little extra work, but the first thing you do have to do is come over here to GitHub. I should say the very first thing you have to do for Windows is to actually get GitHub. Git for Windows. There we go. That's the one. Just look for Git for Windows on Google, and that's the first link that shows up is the one you need. So you have to basically grab whatever it decides to give you by default, save it, execute it, run it, Git on Windows. Go ahead and go with the defaults. Once you have, you do need to do that, because if you don't do that, none of this stuff will work, because it relies on you having that. So make sure you do that first. Then you do have to go over to here, which we just opened the link for. This is GitHub. If you haven't used GitHub before in Windows, it can be a little intimidating, but all you have to do is go over to clone or download the zip file, and then once you have it, I do already have it on the desktop, I believe, one of these things. This one, you just basically open this up, put it inside of, like, for example, like I did. I just put everything inside of Alexa here just for testing, and just leave the folder as is. So when it's all said and done, you'll get this folder, Interactive Adventure Game Tool Master. Now let's jump over there. There's a lot of steps, unfortunately, to this. That's no longer relevant, but when it comes down to it, you'll end up with these kind of files inside of your folder. You have to set up Amazon Web Services and the Amazon Developer Console. We did all that with the last tutorial video, but just in case, basically what you have to do is sign up for a bunch of stuff on Amazon. You have to sign up for Amazon Web Services, which is going to have like all their database stuff and their cloud stuff and all that. And you also need the Amazon Developer Console to be able to do any developer testing. So you just follow these links, load what you need to. This tutorial, for the most part, works as you go through it. It's pretty clear. It feels like they did skip a couple of steps because I had to do a few things over and over again, but I think for the most part, yeah, everything in here is pretty much as they state in the tutorial. You should be okay. Basically, you have to create a database. Amazon's like web service database is called DynamoDB. That's just if you want to keep track of sessions. So like Wayne investigation, even if you leave the game and you come back later, you don't have to start from the beginning. Things like that you're gonna have to do through here. I haven't gone that far with it yet, but it is set up and it is there. Lambda's like for testing things and actually making skill functions. So you actually make a new function, you have to set the Alexa skills kit. One thing you have to be careful of when you're doing this, we did mention it in the last show, but let's see if I can find it here. Lots of things here you have to worry about. You have to make sure that when you're inside of AWS Lambda, which is this, I have two tests. This is the one from last episode. This is this episode's test. You do have to make sure that this region is set to US East, North Virginia, because if you don't do that, you won't get the Alexa skill set option. So basically, let me just try to walk you through this. You create a Lambda function here. You skip the select blueprint stuff because you don't need it. You have to configure triggers, and the trigger you want to use is Alexa skill set. There you go. That's easy enough. You name the function what you want to name it. My adventure. This is my adventure. And up until there, you're fine. Up until there, you're fine. You might as well stop here because you're going to need to upload a zip file anyway. So you might as well just stop here and then kind of go through the rest of the tutorial, which is down here, setting up your machine. But, you know, if you do want to just save this and whatnot, what you can do is just go next. Existing role, sorry. Yeah, you have to set up a role as well. So that's the thing that was missing from their tutorial, I think, is setting up the actual role. Yeah, let's see. There's actually a place you have to set up a role, because they just kind of jump right into it with basic with DynamoDB, but they actually set that up behind the scenes. So you have to worry about that. And I'm sorry I'm jumping all around the place, but I'm trying to remember all these steps. There's a crazy amount of steps you have to take. Here you go. If you go to console AWS Amazon.com, IAM, it's the IAM version. It's the like inside of here. I think it's even IAM. You can set up this role and whatnot, and you just have to make sure that the two things that they recommend to be checked are checked. And let me just check in here where they are. There's also another tutorial. There's like two tutorials. One is a little clearer than the other ones. This one's not so clear, but I think the one on GitHub itself is clear. Yeah, like this one. If you go to Alexa Interactive Game Tool, down at the bottom they actually have a tutorial. This one's a little easier to follow. So you kind of have to switch back and forth between these tutorials to get things working. Like this one actually goes over, oh, you have to set North Virginia as your region. You have to create a new role in IAM. You have to select AWS Lambda. You have to check these boxes. This one goes into a little more detail. So more than this one, I would recommend using the GitHub tutorial and following that one. But when it's all said and done, you get down to this point where it says set up your machine and everything's designed for Mac, so you're kind of screwed if you're on Windows. So what you have to do is, if you're in Windows, this is the work part, you go to user, your name. Inside of here, you have to create a folder called .aws. If you try to do it through Explorer, it's probably not going to work because it doesn't like you. Windows, depending on your version, likes to hold your hand and say that you don't know what you're doing and won't let you do that. So what you have to do is go to the command line, good old command line. Usually when you start off with the command line, you do start in the right directory. So you have to do make dir AWS. I already made it, so it's gonna tell me I can't do that. But if you do that, you do end up with a directory with a dot in front of it. And inside of here, you have to create a credentials file. And now this credentials file is literally just a file that's credentials. Let me go back here. It's literally no extensions, no nothing. It's just credentials. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you because it has keys and stuff in it. But basically, all it contains is this. AWS Access Key ID and AWS Secret Access Key. And I think one of these tutorials probably has this, but I would recommend just looking for something like AWS Secret Access Key on Google or something and just see what it where it is, and then there you go. So for example, if you need to find your access key and secret access key, it takes a little bit of digging around to get to it if you don't know where it is already, but here you go. You go to Amazon Web Services, you go to Alexa, Okay, credentials, continue to security credentials, access keys, and then you've got all your access keys. You create a new key, and these are the two things that are going to result. You have to save both of these to a text file, download that key file, put it in a bunch of places in case you lose it. And there you go. That's basically how you get it. So there's another link that's actually kind of useful. I should probably bookmark all of these things if I can remember which ones are which. Unfortunately, the tutorials don't go through everything. They're not going to handhold very much in these tutorials. But once you get those two keys, you basically put them in as is. Make sure you don't have any leftover spaces at the end. And when you get done, this has to be saved as just that credentials file. This is only for Mac, so you can skip that step. This as well is not very relevant. If you've unzipped the file, like I did here. I took that zip file, put all of the files in here, so I don't need to do this git clone step. And then from within that directory, let's head on over there. Alexa and CD interactive, it's a mouthful. Adventure, game, tool, master. From in here is where you're going to do npm install. And if you haven't installed your Git tools for Windows, this is where you're going to have a bit of an error if you're careful to look at the log. But if you did it right and you already have Git tools installed, npm install from here will work fine. Once that's done, from this directory, you can say npm start, as it says here. There you go. Might take a little bit, but something will pop up in your browser eventually. Eventually, it takes a little bit of time to get started. There we go. So yeah, if you failed, like if you didn't have your Git tools installed, what you're going to have is an error here instead of this thing actually starting. It takes a little bit of time to start up, but once you do, it'll pop something up in your browser that looks very much like if they have it like this. So yeah, just be patient. As long as it's doing stuff, you're okay. And make sure not to close this window if you're still using this tool, because otherwise you'll have problems. There we go. Okay, we got our browser thing open. Here you go. This is the base. If you click on save, what it's going to do is it's going to save all of the stuff that you've got going into, let's see, source skill. It's going to save it under wherever that directory is, source skill. You can make your own thing inside of source skill. All you have to do is grab everything in here. I already have a skill file. Let's get rid of that. All you have to do is grab all of these folders, right click, and just zip them up into whatever you want to zip them up into. There's the zip file. Now, you take that. This is probably going to be like a video I have to look at later to figure out how I did all these steps. So it's helpful for me too. If it's not helpful for you, at least it's helpful for me. And this is where we go back to that thing where we were partway through and say upload a zip file and grab skill, for example. Existing role. This is where you put in that role that you had to create and go next. There you go. You create a function with that source, with that role that you had, and you get to here. And what you have to do from here is you want to test. So what you can do is configure test event. And from here, you don't want the hello world template. You want to scroll down to Alexa start session. So this simulates what happens when you start an Alexa session. Save and test. And down here is if you get a bunch of errors, then obviously something went wrong. But if it went right, you get this green checkbox and execution result succeeded. There you go. That means it kind of worked. So what you have to do next, go to a different part of Amazon. This is why I have like 6 billion Amazon links open. You have to go to your Amazon developer console this time around. So when you first get over here, when you first select Alexa and get started with Alexa, you choose the Alexa skill set, get started, and you add a new skill. I should probably show this because it is rather important. This is what's going to be displayed. So my adventure, And this is what players are actually, or users, I guess, are going to say to actually get your thing to work. So you can say my adventure here. This is where you can actually put words in there. This is what they actually have to speak to start your thing. Okay. More steps. Intent schema. You have to come over here inside of, let me check around. Yes, inside of source, skill, models, intent schema. You open this up. Yeah, sure. You grab it, you copy it over, you paste it, you're done there. Sample utterances, same thing. There should be inside of models, utterances, you copy all this, you paste it all in here, you go next. You do want to pick that, so you want to use your Lambda ARN, which is, and I just North America, because that's where I have my thing hosted. That's where you put in, let's see, we're going to find it again. Here we go. Hunting around all these links. You will get lost in these links very quickly. There you go. So grab this link from AWS Lambda in the upper right corner. Shoot, I have to find my thing again. Put it in here. And next. There you go. After all that, you finally get to here, and you can say, for example, begin Ask My Adventure. And if it works, you'll get to here. The default is welcome to my Alexa skill, so if you want to listen to what it actually sounds like, you can click the listen button.
Welcome to my Alexa skill.
You enter a room with 3 doors, each with a distinct number on it. Which door would you like to open?
Now my voice is in there
Learn
because
how to
I've
use this
customized
skill,
it,
say
and
help.
I should say
When you are ready, say begin.
how I customized it, because that's the next step. I should almost split these videos in two, because there's two kind of things that are a hassle. But basically what happens, if you did the default stuff, you're going to get whatever was in here. Welcome to my Alexa skill. To learn how to use this skill, say help. So in here, if you want to change this text, you can change it. Just make sure that when you're done, you hit save, because it'll overwrite everything, and then you can create your zip file and everything else. Now, getting your voice, like your custom voice in there so it doesn't sound like Alexa the whole time. Like if you want to do something like that Wayne investigation skill up here, you're going to need to use MP3 files. You know, I'm Batman. If you want to have your MP3 file that says I'm Batman, rather than Alexa saying I'm Batman, you do have to make your own MP3 files. There's another step that actually takes a little bit of work. And if you don't know what you're doing, you'll be like me and dig around for, for ages, so let me help you with that. There is, let's see, there is a page that's very helpful here. If you look for a speech synthesis markup language reference on Amazon, just look for this in Google and you'll get to this page. What it does warn you in small print is that your MP3 file has to be formatted in a very specific way. And you can do that through Audacity, which I recommend, unless you really do want to use like converter tools and command line converter tools. I think most people at Audacity is fine. Audacity is basically a free audio program. You can record, so let's do this from scratch. So you can record your voice. So, hello, I'm Alexa. I'm a dude. Okay. Cut that last little bit off and play it. So, hello. Don't need that. Hello, I'm Alexa. I'm a dude. Okay. So that's what you want it to play instead of the default voice. So what you need to do is down here in project rate. I hope this is going to show up. Yep. You have to select 16,000. The default is 44,100. You have to select 16,000. That's very important. And when you export audio, you do want to select MP3 files. Name it whatever you want. Options. Quality has to be 48K. Bitrate has to be constant. By default, these should be okay. Now you save this. You want to make sure that nothing is in this metadata. You cannot have anything in the metadata. This has to be clear. So there you go. That's clear. You save the file. You have the file in your folder now, wherever it happened to save it. I think I just saved it in here. So there's my I'm Alexa file. Here's what it sounds like. Hello, I'm Alexa. I'm a dude. There you go. Next step, you have to host this link somewhere. You have to host this MP3 file somewhere. If you do happen to have a website or a hosting service that allows you to use HTTPS, like here with this starts with HTTPS, you're golden, you're fine. If you're like me and you don't have that, then what you have to do is use, for example, Amazon's web services. Since you already have to sign up for Amazon Web Services for so much other stuff anyway, you might as well use S3. So you've got S3 is one of the services that you can use. It's a hosting service, so storage S3. If you come over here, you end up inside of something that looks like this. You have to create a bucket. That's kind of like a folder that everyone can access. You create a bucket, you name it. One thing about this bucket is everyone's buckets are going to be publicly visible, so you might have to do a little work to get a bucket name that someone else hasn't used before. My adventure is probably not going to work. Someone already probably has that, but for whatever, my adventure Batman, whatever you want to do here, just make sure you've selected a bucket name that no one else is using. Select a region. I just picked US standard, but there's probably reasons for selecting different regions. And then create. And when you're done, you get something like this. I created a bucket called Project Labyrinth. You get something that looks like this, and it's empty. So what you have to do is upload your file. So upload, add file. I'm Alexa, I'm a dude. I'm going to upload that MP3 file. Set details. I'm not going to worry about that. Just start the upload. We'll do this later. It's easy enough to do this. You select it, click on it to select it. Actions, make public. You have to do this, otherwise you will have a problem. It will not be able to find your MP3 file. It'll give you an error. So there we go. I've got this MP3 file hosted in an HTTPS place. So it's secure socket layer. It's safe, it's secure, it's trustworthy. Click on properties. And inside of here, there's going to be a link. This is what you can use to access the file. So you put this in your browser to make sure you can access it. Hello, I'm Alexa. I'm a dude. There you go. We've got the MP3 file hosted under an HTTPS place. Next step. I hope I haven't turned you off doing this entirely. There's a lot of steps. It took me a while to get this working. Inside of source, skill. I'm sure I can get the right one. Models, intent schema. Let me just make sure I know which one it is. Scenes. Inside of source skill models scenes. This is going to contain this by default. So inside of here, welcome to my Alexa skill. To learn how to use this skill, say help. There's also going to be voice. Make sure you edit the voice one, intro, and you're going to have to use something called an audio source tag. So if you're used to XML or even HTML, you should be golden with this. But basically, inside of the text, you do an audio source equals. Use single quotes, don't use double quotes, because otherwise you have to worry about like doing stuff like this and backspacing and all that. It's fine to just use single quotes. And post that link in here. Let's see. You enter a room with 3 doors. All right, let's go ahead and let's add an extra one. So I'm Alexa. Well, we'll keep it at welcome. That's fine. So just put the link that you just did in here. Make sure that you have audio source equals single quote. End it with a single quote. Use this / character and this to close it out. And save the scenes JSON file. And go back out here. Zip everything up inside of source. So again, skill. Inside of here, after you've modified that, because you've modified a file in here, you've modified scenes.json. So you have to rezip everything. Skill zip, whatever you want to call it. You've got your zip file that you have to upload. You go back over to Lambda. find it again. You go back over to here, you go to code, code entry type, upload a zip file so you can upload it. Skill type, there you go. Save and test. Make sure that your execution result succeeds. There you go. And you should be okay. Now coming back out here to the service simulator. So for example, let's reset this. So after you've got all that done, you can use this for testing, just simple testing. So like for example, begin. And there we go, listen.
Welcome to my Alexa skill.
You enter a
I'm
room
still
with
using
three
the welcome
doors, each with a
MP3 file,
distinct
so I'm not
number on
using
it.
hello
Which door
Alexa,
would
I'm
you
the
like to
dude.
open?
To learn how to use this skill, say help. When you are
But
ready, say begin.
to make sure that MP3 file works, let me try something. If you want to just test what Alexa sounds like, you can use this voice simulator box. So you can go in here, basically type something that looks like this. I'll use single quotes. Do I still have my link? Alright, I still kind of have my link, so let's keep that. I'm plus Alexa, I think that'll work. And let's test it. Hello, I'm Alexa. There we go. I'm a dude. So if you do have spaces, they'll get replaced by pluses. Just be careful about that. So if you do want to test, this is the easy way to test it. Just make sure you put these speak tags in here, and you're fine. Inside of here, it's going to be a speak. Audio source equals that. There you go. You're pretty much set. Let's see, is there anything I'm missing here? So yeah, as you start working around, you probably want to use this tool to make the actual adventure, because otherwise you have to modify a lot of JavaScript and JSON and stuff like that by hand. You probably don't want to do that, so I would recommend using this tool. Just make whatever you need to make, whatever branches you need to make, whatever, you know, speech and overriding and everything else. See, like it even allows you to use like this inside of here, so you can put the audio files directly into this voice thing. You have the cards, so you can add, subtract, take away from this tool. Just make sure you save it. When you're done, zip those files, upload it to Lambda, and it'll be updated. So I would recommend using this if you want to make your branches and everything else. There's probably more to this, but I think there's a manual over at GitHub in here. So there's probably a manual with, like, you know, how to actually use this in more detail. But hopefully that gets you started. Hopefully that helps me jog my memory when I look back at this and I actually have to remember how to do this months down the line, because there's a lot of steps. Unfortunately, there are a lot of steps. There's no way to really make this very clear. Their tutorial is close. It's close. It comes close. Especially this GitHub Alexa interactive adventure game tool. The tutorial down here is pretty close to what you need to do to get everything working. The only thing you kind of have to be careful about is if you're on Windows, you have to do all this stuff differently, because this is all Mac based, so OS X based. So just do, like I said, go to your user's name folder, use makedir to make a .aws folder, make a credentials file, put this stuff in it, and, you know, do all this. You know, theoretically, you know, maybe if you already have Git installed, you can just do this step and avoid having to unzip files and do all that. But yeah, either way works, I think. And that got us started. Let's see if it actually works. So you can come over to this Echosim.io. If you log in with your Amazon account, anything that you've got in progress, basically anything that's in here, inside of Developer Console, Alexa, inside of here, all of these skills are going to be available from Echosim.io by Magic. So here's what we have to do. Let's see. Make sure you have your mic on, and you click and hold this and say what you need to do to open the skill. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's try it out. I'll make sure I get my name right. Interactive Adventure. Okay. Alexa, open Interactive Adventure. And pray it works, and pray it understands what you're trying to say. instead of trying to get the weather or
Welcome
something
to my
crazy.
Alexa skill.
You enter a room with 3 doors, each with a distinct number on it.
There you
Which door
go.
would you like to open?
To learn how to use this skill, say help. When you are ready, say begin.
Begin.
You enter a room
There we
with 3 doors, each with a distinct number on it. Which door would you like to open? You can say, open door 1, open door 2, or open door 3.
Open door 3.
Congratulations, you've beat my skill. If you would like to play again,
World's
say,
easiest
start
game.
again. Otherwise, you can say exit skill.
But obviously you don't want to have an adventure game that just has Alexa's like robot voice going through the whole thing, because that would probably drive people nuts. So that's why I told you about how to upload your custom MP3 files. If you did come in here and replaced all of these Alexa, welcome to my Alexa skill kind of nonsense, if you replaced all of that with MP3 links, then you can create an interactive adventure that has whatever voice and sound clips you want. One thing to be careful about with audio source clips is that they do recommend that these things be short. So don't be putting in like music files or like 10-minute long like speeches or anything in there, because that has to be something different. This is just for short voice clips. So keep it short and sweet like the Wayne investigation skill, and you should be fine. That's pretty much, I shouldn't even say that's all there is to it, because that's a lot. That's a lot. I've been going for like 30 minutes just to get this thing started. So I hope you stuck with the video if you are interested in doing this. Obviously, if you're not interested in doing this, you probably stopped like 25 minutes ago. But if you are interested, I hope this helped, especially for those of you on Windows, because there aren't really any resources that show you how to do it. And there weren't really any resources that combined how to use this tool with how to use like audio source files. So I hope those two things helped you out. And this is what we're going to be doing to get started on Season 3, Blue Tengu, like making an interactive adventure for the Alexa device. One thing I do have to warn you, like I did warn people in the last Alexa video, is that Alexa is, at the moment, they don't allow you to they don't have a royalty system in place. So anything you make for the Alexa is going to be free. You will not earn money from it unless you think of some very tricky way to earn like sponsor money. Like for example, using an MP3 file that says, "Welcome to Cal Worthington. Here's my dog Spot. Used cars. $500, and every time that MP3 file gets played, you get some money from it or something. Unless you do something tricky like that, you're probably not going to earn money at this, at least until Amazon kind of changes their policy. So just be wary of that. This is for fun at the moment. It's also like if you do have an app behind the scenes that you want Alexa to tie into, obviously making a skill that hooks into that and hooks into your website and everything else is probably worth looking into, because if you do want to have people using the Alexa to use your app from the Alexa, then that's the way to go. So at least for now, skills are free, but if you want to make a game for fun, here's how you do it. That's Blue Tengu Labs. So let me get the times here. Because we do a live show every week. We finished off season 1 and 2. This is going to kind of kick off season 3 and playing around a little bit until we actually get our teeth into a game project. But if you do want to check out our live show, I need to give you those times. You can go over to Twitch.tv/Blue Tengu. The times are all there as well. So let me take you over to that site real quick. Sorry for the spamming if you just came here for the Alexa tutorial. But we are making games live on Twitch TV, which is also an Amazon property. So Amazon is getting a lot of love from me here. But just www.twitch.tv Blue Tengu, and this is where we make it. So our schedule should be down here. We've made 2 games in the past, which are more traditional games using Game Maker Studio. One is an ode to the Commodore 64, the system I grew up on. The second one is more of a procedural adventure game called Skyrim, which we just finished up. Very proud of it. But the times are basically, I live in Japan, so that dictates when I can do this. I have a family, so for starting season 3, What I'm going to be doing is Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Japan time to midnight. So basically about 2 hours, starting at 10 p.m. Saturday nights in Japan, which translates to, unfortunately for those of you in the Americas, it translates to a very bad time. Basically 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to about 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. At least if you're on the East Coast, it's reasonable. If you're in Europe, it's about 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday afternoons, depending on where you live. In Europe, UK would be 1 p.m. And Australia is pretty close to Japan time, so it's going to be night. But that's when we do the live show. You can also check out bluetengu.com for information there. But hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me jump off the desktop. So Blue Tengu Lab. So we're just playing around with Alexa and getting started. It takes a little work. I did want to do the setup in advance so I wouldn't have to fiddle around with forums and searching for answers before actually making a game. But this video and the last video are kind of like the setup for what it takes to get stuff working in Alexa. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it's not too bad. Hopefully this tutorial helped. Following the tutorials they have in combination with this video tutorial might get you started. I won't be able to answer like all the questions you might have based on this, but you know, if you do have a question, go ahead and throw it in the comments. As long as it's relevant to what I just did. I probably won't be able to answer any questions just in general about Alexa or anything because I'm just getting started myself. But if it's just about anything I did, like a step that I might have not explained clearly enough, feel free to throw a comment in. I might be able to answer the question. If I'm not, I'm sorry. But hope to see you during the live show. Thank you for watching.